Thanks a lot for coming in.
Good morning, happy to be here.
Something about this community appeals to you?
This is a wonderful place to live.
For Kelowna Now, this is Camp Mulgat.
And we're joined by Kelowna City Councillor Loyal Wooldridge. We're into the phase of Journey Home where it's gone from being a big discussion to being a plan, and we're seeing all of these facilities getting built.
Yep.
But is there something missing?
You know, I think when we talk about housing first, doesn't mean housing only. It's housing with supports. And right now we're seeing the approval of buildings for residences being built, but a big portion of the Journey Home strategy are the wraparound health supports that are needed in order for people to rehabilitate and overcome the challenges that they have in their lives.
And there are wraparound services. And there's people, we were just in one this week, and there's a staff there, they're monitoring the comings and going, and they're in touch with healthcare providers. Is that not enough?
Well, you know, what we need to really look at is the rapid response to the healthcare services that are needed. So are there services in Kelowna? Absolutely. But right now it's about mapping out all of those systems within the community to find out where people are connecting with the services, and are they enough, are they intensive enough, and what are the wait times and eligibility for people to get into them. Because treatment, for example, can take up to 6 months for someone to get into a treatment bed.
Wait a minute, so we move someone into housing,
right,
get that roof over their head first, as the strategy would suggest we should do.
Because it's really about survival at that point. Give
right.
them what they need to survive.
And there you've got someone who clearly needs addiction treatment, and they have to wait 6 months in some cases?
Yeah, up to 6 months. And for youth, there's no treatment beds available in Kelowna at the moment.
So this was part of the strategy for that to be there, and yet it isn't.
It is part of the 5-year strategy, and that's what's really important to talk about. Is we're only, you know, almost 1 year into the strategy. So right now, rather than fighting against housing, it's an important conversation to have that we really need to be working with the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Mental Health and Addictions, who are the provincial ministries that fund these healthcare services, to look at how we're going to reinforce the housing first strategy, because it's not just housing only.
Right. So when you reach out to people at Interior Health and say, hey, where's the additional funding going into treatment beds? They only have whatever funding they've been given from the ministry, so perhaps they can only give you so much.
Well, each agency is mandated through their various ministries, which is a mandate letter from the minister, from the province. And so those are the initiatives that are onboarded and part of their projects moving forward. So it's really working with the province to say, hey, you know, we're doing our part as a community, stepping up and housing folks. But the gap right now is the rapid response to the medical healthcare services, right, and talking about this more of a healthcare crisis than a housing crisis.
Right. So I would count you as among those people on council that are generally supportive. We need this kind of housing. But you have to end up raising your hand and saying yes, but at the same time knowing that really that treatment bed side of things is has some catch up to do.
It has some catch up to do, but so does construction. So we're looking at 12, 18, 24 months before many of these buildings are built. So time is really of the essence right now to work with the province to find those gaps in service so that we can support the service provider community and the folks that are living in those buildings optimally.
Right. You know, overall, this whole time that we're going through in the province and in Kelowna in particular, the stars are kind of aligned. You've got all these different levels of government that all seem committed to doing something.
Absolutely.
But it does look like at this phase we could be doing better.
You know, I think a lot of people expect everything to be really linear and roll out at the exact same time, which is probably the most frustrating thing when it comes to government, because you have to strike when the iron's hot at the funding that's available, and right now housing is so prevalent. So we really have to get those projects underway and continue to work with healthcare to bring in the support side of things. So it's hard to see because we want everything to move linear, but that's right, the challenge.
So is the city reaching out to the ministry? Is that call being made that that it's time to sort of step up with some more funding for that element?
Absolutely. You know, we talk about this almost every single week when we're in council as the social issues that we have here in Kelowna. And it's really about getting our city manager and our mayor to sit down with the various ministers and to really work through the strategy together to find out how the mandates can be massaged and work with the various agencies that are in town that provide those services to help these folks.
It does seem that overall, it just seems almost like an unsolvable problem, but do you think overall that we are headed in the right direction?
Well, you know, this has been decades in the making of lack of funding and social policy, so it takes a while to unravel. We've seen different institutions closed over the last 20 years and having people just spill onto the streets of the downtown
You're
east
talking
side.
about people who decades ago might have been in some mental health facility. It was decided, I guess, that wasn't the best thing, so now they're on the streets, and then they wind up seeking...
self-medicating or whatever that may be. So right now we've got a mandate of harm reduction, which we're seeing on the streets, but when we look beyond that, we can't forget that we need to be proactive, otherwise we're forgetting about a whole section of the population that is going to need those intensive supports.
Thanks for coming in and talking to us about it.
Always a pleasure.
Councillor Wooldridge, and thank you for watching Kelowna Now.